Cancer is one of those words that instantly creates fear. It feels unpredictable, uncontrollable, and often like something that just happens out of nowhere. But what if that's not the full story? What if your body has been sending signals for years, sometimes decades, before anything serious develops? And what if you actually have far more influence over the process than you've been led to believe? To understand this, we need to look at both the warning signs and the deeper mechanisms behind cancer. Because cancer is not a single event, it's a long, gradual process that unfolds over time. Let's start with one of the most common but overlooked signs: fatigue. Now, fatigue can come from many things: stress, poor sleep, or nutrition, but when it becomes persistent and doesn't improve with rest, it can signal something deeper. In the case of cancer, your body is essentially fighting a silent battle. On one side, abnormal cells are growing and consuming resources. On the other side, your immune system is working overtime to identify and eliminate them. This constant internal conflict drains energy, leaving you feeling exhausted for no clear reason. Another warning sign is pain, especially chronic pain that doesn't change with movement or position. Most everyday pain, like back pain, can be relieved by shifting posture or resting. But when pain is caused by a growth pressing on tissues, it often remains constant. It doesn't ease with movement, and over time it can become more intense or persistent. To truly understand why these symptoms happen, we need to understand what cancer actually is. At its core, cancer is a change in your own cells. A normal cell grows, performs its function, and then stops when it's supposed to. This is called regulated growth. But a cancer cell loses that ability. It keeps growing without control. This is unregulated growth. Normal cells also specialize. They start as stem cells and then differentiate into specific types with unique functions. Cancer cells, however, lose this specialization. They become undifferentiated, meaning they no longer follow the organized structure of healthy tissue. Instead, they multiply chaotically, ignoring the body's signals. One of the most well-known signs of this process is the appearance of lumps. These can occur in areas like the breast or testicles. While many lumps are benign and harmless, any unusual growth should be evaluated. The key is not to panic, but to pay attention. Another sign that should never be ignored is blood in the urine. While it can be caused by infections or kidney stones, it can also indicate issues in the bladder, kidneys, or prostate. Similarly, changes in bowel habits like persistent diarrhea, constipation, or blood in the stool can point to problems in the digestive system. But how does cancer actually begin? It all starts with something called a mutation, a change in DNA. That sounds dramatic, but in reality, DNA damage and copying errors are part of normal life. Your body is constantly making new cells, and every time it does, it has to copy an enormous amount of genetic information. Most of the time, this happens smoothly. Sometimes, though, mistakes slip in. Cancer begins when certain changes affect the genes that control how cells grow, divide, repair themselves, or die. In other words, cancer is not a foreign invader. It starts as your own cells, but with the wrong instructions. Fortunately, your body is not passive in this process. It has multiple layers of defense working around the clock. The first line of defense is DNA repair. When a mistake happens, specialized systems try to correct it before it causes trouble. If the damage is too severe to fix, the cell can be directed into apoptosis, which is a built-in self-destruct program. And if a damaged cell still survives, the immune system has another chance to step in. Under normal conditions, immune cells can detect and destroy abnormal cells before they become dangerous. Cancer becomes possible only when several of these protective systems fail in sequence. Even then, a single mutation does not automatically equal cancer. A mutated cell usually needs additional changes and the right environment to keep growing. That is why cancer is better understood as a process rather than a sudden event. Researchers describe this process in terms of initiators and promoters. Initiators are things that increase the chance of harmful DNA damage, such as tobacco smoke, radiation, and certain chemicals. Promoters are factors that help already abnormal cells survive, multiply, and eventually become a detectable tumor. Cancer typically develops through the accumulation of multiple genetic changes over time, not from one mistake alone. One reason this matters is that cancer cells often behave differently from healthy cells when it comes to fuel. Many tumors take up glucose at unusually high rates, which is one reason PT scans commonly use a radioactive form of glucose called FDG. Areas with high uptake can light up on the scan and help doctors locate or stage certain cancers. That does not mean sugar alone causes cancer, but it does show that many tumors are metabolically hungry and often use glucose differently from normal tissue. Other factors can also make the environment more favorable for disease progression. Chronic stress, for example, is not a proven direct cause of cancer by itself, but long-term stress can weaken immune function and disrupt normal body systems. That matters because immune surveillance is one of the body's key defenses against abnormal cells. Environmental exposures, tobacco use, excess body weight, and physical inactivity are also established risk factors for many cancers. In other words, lifestyle does not explain every case, but it absolutely influences risk. Now let's talk about warning signs. One of the most important is unexplained weight loss. This is not the intentional, gradual weight loss that comes from improving your diet or becoming more active. It is weight loss that happens without trying and often without a clear reason. The American Cancer Society notes that weight loss, fatigue, and fever can all occur because cancer cells may use up much of the body's energy supply, release substances that alter metabolism, or trigger immune responses that change how the body uses energy. In later stages of some cancers, severe wasting can occur. Fever is another subtle sign that people sometimes overlook. A persistent low-grade fever without a clear infection is worth paying attention to, especially when it appears alongside fatigue, night sweats, or weight loss. Fever by itself has many possible causes, of course, but when it lingers, it can be part of the broader pattern doctors watch for in blood cancers and some advanced solid tumors. Skin changes matter too, especially when a mole starts to evolve. The well-known ABCDE rule is useful here: asymmetry, border irregularity, color variation, diameter greater than 6 millimeters, and evolution over time. A mole that changes shape, color, or size deserves medical attention. Skin cancers are often highly treatable when caught early, which is why noticing change is so important. Difficulty swallowing, known as dysphagia, is another symptom worth taking seriously when it persists or worsens. It can happen with many non-cancerous conditions, including reflux or benign enlargement of nearby structures, but it is also a common symptom of esophageal cancer and some throat-related cancers. In esophageal cancer, swallowing problems often begin mildly and then get progressively worse as the opening inside the esophagus narrows. Here is the most important part of this whole discussion: time. Cancer usually does not appear overnight. In many cases, the genetic alterations that lead to cancer build up over years or decades. That means there is often a long window in which prevention, screening, and early detection can make a real difference. It also means the body has many chances to repair damage or eliminate abnormal cells before a tumor becomes dangerous. That is where lifestyle becomes powerful, not as a guarantee, but as a way to reduce risk. Avoiding tobacco is one of the single most effective cancer prevention steps. Staying physically active is linked to lower risk for multiple cancers. Preventing excess body weight also matters. More broadly, the goal is to create conditions that support healthy metabolism, immune function, and tissue repair over the long term. So the key takeaway is this: cancer is not usually a single, random moment. It is a long biological process shaped by genetics, environment, and behavior. Your body is not helpless in that process. It has repair systems, programmed cell death, and immune defenses working for you every day. The more you understand those systems, the less powerless this topic becomes. And if you notice persistent symptoms like unexplained weight loss, fever, a changing mole, trouble swallowing, or a chronic cough, the smartest move is not panic, it is timely medical evaluation. Awareness does not create fear, awareness gives you options. If you want to take control of your health with real life-saving information, hit subscribe right now.